Okay, good morning, everyone. And here we are on our Friday morning, a little bit later, but yeah, we're beginning. And so I'll start with a bit of a reflection, and then we'll open it up for some questions. Just thinking in terms of, okay, this is going to, well, one, of course, this is the last morning, and what do I want to actually say last morning? And I think one of the things that comes to mind is just the emphasis on right view. So often we get worried about our practice, sort of, and it usually isn't sort of our practice; it's my practice, and that becomes very burdensome and complicated. But the sense of right view in terms of, particularly in terms of just living in the world, getting by in our day-to-day life, navigating this human existence. The foundations of right view are the fundamental recognition of karma, action. And karma is really all it is the verb to do, so that what is done inevitably has a result, and that's when you think of karma, it's not any kind of esoteric kind of teaching or some kind of magical thing that brings these special results or something. It's just the reality that whatever is done does have a result, and to acknowledge that, take that into account. What results do I actually want to experience, and if, in order to put forth the right kinds of effort and action, and that. And also, when we look at it in terms of how we live our life and how we train ourselves, then that sense of our life is made up of many little actions, and they that's what builds into character or personality or who we think we are. And so it's these are small things. It's like, okay, I'm wearing this robe, but it's a cotton robe, and cotton is just these tufts or strands of organic material that are then spun into so that these little bits of cotton get turned into a a thread-like material. The thread then gets woven into a cloth, and it's sort of, but fundamentally it's just little bits of this cotton material that is then turned into thread, that is then turned into cloth, that is then turned into a robe or an article of or a jacket or something like that. And these are and that's that's similar to karma. It's our little acts of body, speech, and mind that we intend, that where there is a volition behind. There is an impulse that we follow, and as we do that, particular actions and tendencies start to gain momentum, and they have a certain weight, weight or momentum, and that's fundamentally what karma is. And it's also just thinking of the Buddha's discourse on the highest blessings, and I'm trying to think of the Pali. It's not coming to my. Anyway, it's in that Patirupa Desa Vaja Ubeja Kata Punyata. So having done the wholesome, or punya, the wholesome, the skillful, in the past, that is a highest blessing. And of course, the past is only what I started this talk in the past. I mean, it's past is just a sort of a point, and and it keeps moving forward. So that the having set intentions in the past that were wholesome, that were skillful, that were punya, that were meritorious. Terrible word, I hate it, but it's these beautiful conduct, then that gains a momentum, and and we weave the fabric of our character into what we are, and it's continually changing, and can be and of course in terms of your teachings of liberation, you say, well, it's all not self anyway. It's not me, not mine. Why should I bother? No, we receive the fruits of our actions, whether you call it self or not self. We receive the fruits of our actions. That is a fundamental aspect of nature. So that attending to that and learning how to take responsibility for our well-being and the well-being of others, because when we give, when we share, when we are having integrity within our actions, other people benefit. We see that it's a source of joy. It's a source of well-being. So that being able to make that that kind of to recognize that we're, I do talk a lot about the goal of practice in terms of relinquishment, letting go, and that is very much a integral part of each other. The cultivation. It's like when the Buddha gives his in Owada Patimokkha, which is it's like a distillation of his whole path. It's just that really the letting, the not doing of any of all evil, sabba papa sakarnanam kusala supasamata, doing the wholesome sajjita pariyotapannam, the purification of the heart. It's all of a piece. It all works together. But that foundation of well-being is very important. So that learning how to attend to that and allow it to be a source of delight. And again, because when sometimes we're so wrapped up in my practice and measuring what my progress is and trying to measure what my wisdom is, then just the very movement of mind toward measuring and comparing keeps us suffering. It keeps us discontent, keeps us off balance. That isn't a balanced basis to say as a foundation of one's cultivation. That's that establishing oneself in what's truly good. It serves one well, whether it's in the engaging with the world or engaging with liberation and freedom. One needs that foundation, and and it's helpful to not take oneself. I say when the heart is filled with a sense of well-being that is grounded in just your basic goodness, it's hard to take oneself too seriously, and that's really helpful for for liberation. That if you're going to really free the heart, then you can't take yourself too seriously. I mean, it's just as it's like we're just these kind of bags of skin moving around in space, and it's just and it's just so kind of pathetic. So it's why take yourself seriously? And and then of course it's as they get older, the bags start to leak a lot, and or they're just they just tend to it's just so much more maintenance. So it's just an ongoing maintenance of so it just look at what is this thing we call me? What is this thing we call human existence? And and it's a it is this opportunity for well-being. It is this opportunity for living together, living together in some sort of harmony. And it's, you know, it's not going to be completely harmonious, in the sense that, you know, we all have different views and perspectives, but again, that sense of dukkha, suffering, discontent, dissatisfaction, that's you know, it keeps cropping up, and how do we roll with it, so that it isn't a source of contention or a source of internal agitation. And it's you know, these are you know, it's negotiating the world, negotiating these human conditions, and but what can't be forgotten is this karma, actions of body, speech, and mind that are wholesome or unwholesome have commensurate results, and that's whether one is a you know, your ordinary run-of-the-mill unenlightened being or an awakened being. They have every action has a result of some sort, so that being attentive to the you know, what kind of results do we want? How do we want to live? How do we want to experience this world? So anyway, those are some random thoughts on the this last morning, and open it up for some questions. I've been scrolling through and there wasn't nothing yet. It's
people are content.
We'll see. How does merit fit in? Well, I mean, that's what I've been talking about. Merit, and again, as I said, I mean, it's a terrible translation of a really beautiful concept, and I don't know of a good translation. The word that is usually translated as merit is punya, and punya is actions that result in well-being and happiness, ease, both for oneself and for others. So that there's a I don't even remember where it is, but I just remember where the Buddha is like speaking to the monks, like do not be afraid of punya. Punya is another word for happiness, and that's I think that encapsulates the that concept of punya. That it's that which brings happiness, and in the suttas, the Buddha points to three bases of of merit. The punya, dana, sila, bhavana. These are just big categories. So that generosity, giving, sharing, dana, sila, virtue, precepts, integrity, and then bhavana, the mental cultivation, development of the heart. In the commentarial literature, then they expand it to 10 bases of punya, and of course I'm going to come up short on that list, but it's dana, sila, bhavana, but then also service, also like listening to the Dhamma, hearing the Dhamma. There's the very last one is establishing right view, and that's really meritorious. But it's like that, and I'm spacing on the list, but it's that sense of these different types of action that are also like dedication of merit or dedication of blessings it's like wishing that one's goodness is a benefit to others, and then also delighting the anumodana, the delighting in the goodness of others, is a basis of merit. So these are the expansion of the in the commentaries, and I think it's a good because it fills it out a bit more, fleshes it out a bit more. Okay. I was wondering, can you describe how to distinguish wrong concentration from right concentration during meditation? I think one of the first ways of distinguishing, say, wrong concentration, right concentration is, again, does it make one happy and easeful and a feeling of kind of spaciousness, or does it kind of tight, contracted, focused concentration, but you're kind of miserable. That's wrong concentration. And one might be concentrated, but it's not all that pleasant, really. Another aspect of say wrong concentration, right concentration, is that when there, and something that is very important, like wrong concentration is when it is lacking in mindfulness. And so that any concentration that is kind of, again, it's kind of dull and contracted, or not reflective, not kind of aware of context and continuity of how things are coming together. That that function of mindfulness and awareness is just, it's integral to concentration or samadhi, samma samadhi and miccha samadhi. Because sometimes you know, there are meditators who can be quite focused and maybe sit for long periods of time, but just don't really experience much reflection or awareness. And in the Thai idiom that's used is sort of kind of tree stump meditation.
Stump samadhi.
Stump samadhi, yeah. So it's not very alive and not very, it's just not very useful or fruitful. So that's a, you know, if one comes out of the meditation and said, well, you know, I wonder what happened there. That might not be right samadhi. Yeah.
Add just a little bit to that. You know, you mentioned it being in conjunction with right mindfulness and clear comprehension. You know, sati sampajanya.
Yeah.
Also, just samma samadhi being just with all in tune with all of the other eightfold.
You know,
all of the path, including virtue and integrity and the other things you've been talking about. That all has to be present as well. All factors for it to be samma samadhi. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's one of the aspects, because there's sometimes that sense of right is, you know, we can narrowly define it between, okay, right and wrong. But samma is sort of right in the sense that it is in harmony or in tune with the other factors of the path. And that is a really important piece of, say, of samma samadhi, of right concentration, that it is a culmination and an integral application of the whole path. And so that, so that's a important aspect of that right concentration.
And then just the one last thing is that the result of samma samadhi being developing the faculty of samma samadhi, the result being in relinquishment. That sutta that you often quote.
Yes.
The result being relinquishment.
Yes. Yeah, and that's because if it's just sort of feeding more desire, more clinging, more becoming,
striving,
maybe
goal orientation.
Maybe not so right. Okay, next question. Back to merit. Does merit affect rebirth, or is that not to be considered? Well, it absolutely does affect rebirth. But it doesn't need to be considered in the sense that this process of cause and condition and result is a process. And if the process is working in this life, chances are it's going to carry on into the next life, into the rebirth process. One could be, why would it not? Again, these are fundamental aspects of nature. So, I think it's just that recognizing this process is a universal process, and that's when we think of right view is not saying something. Oh no, this is right view in terms of, okay, this is how nature works, and so that's an important aspect. Okay, next one. We're raised with certain rules, beliefs, and often following and often following the Dhamma diverges from these. Can you speak about the fear that comes up when we turn toward the Dhamma and away from those beliefs? Well, I mean, I think that, some beliefs we really, even if we're raised with them, that's one of the problems. So it's, and depending on our background, culture that we grow up in, every culture has various belief systems, and the Dhamma quite rightfully challenges many of these belief systems, so that, say, like for say like a Judeo-Christian background, of say belief in original sin. There's that's something that affects us in a really negative way, and it's and even if it's a strong belief, or then it still is something that is worthy of relinquishing when we see the Buddha's teaching pointing, say, more to original purity than to original sin. So that's it's a great bonus. But there'll still be a certain fear there, and it's just seeing it over and over again. That no, that's just a belief that I've been conditioned by and assumed its reality, and this other belief, for lack of a better word, or understanding, is more complete and more in tune with nature. So that's something to look at, and even if you grow up in a Buddhist culture, you're still going to get conditioned by kind of Buddhist cultural
folk beliefs,
and it's much of it's cultural. Just a really strong belief. I just as one, a really strong belief in, say, like in ghosts and spirits, and which does. I'm not discounting their existence, but everything being fearful, so that it's quite concerning. But it's like for just my biggest association over the years, of course, is with Thai people, and just going into a new place, not familiar with, it's always afraid of ghosts, even if it's in a really wholesome place. Casa Serena at Abayagiri, and we actually, because so many people had kind of expressed their kind of I'm sure there's a goal, I'm sure there's spirits or something. So we actually had really an accomplished teacher. He's passed away now, really revered forest monk, Luang Por Pasanno, to check the place out. So he had us he had us chant, and he sat in meditation and kind of surveyed the place. And he said, and after, he said, there's no spirits here. This is. So it was, but even when we tell people that, yeah, but I know. So I mean, beliefs are they're strong in either condition, and fear is a very human response to stepping into the unknown. And much of the belief systems of whatever culture it is, just in this human condition, they're there to help us navigate a it's kind of an unknown and oftentimes unknowable reality. And when we challenge that, or are willing to reflect on that, and willing to turn to it and question it, then there's a certain fear and discomfort. So it's the willingness to look at that fear and see where that comes from, and start seeing the sense of, say, of becoming, the movement toward, and because becoming is not just in a sense of, our sense of self is also reaffirmed through our belief systems. And that's why I say, as one of the first things are relinquished for the stream enterer, of course, that's Sakaya Ditti, but Sila Bhatta Paramasa is a freedom from the kind of belief in, let's say, these different conventions, or not holding so tightly to these different conventions of belief and I'm not going to say, to a certain degree, you have rules. Certain rules that if you do it this way, it's going to be this. It has to be like this. If you don't do it like that, then there's something terrible about you, and it's bringing it back. That's the stream enterer is then completely grounded in right view and understanding of the causal processes. That's the one of the, how do you say, definitions or appellations of a stream enterer is ditti sampanna. So there's one with complete or replete view, with right view. So it's a being established in right view.
Just quick to add, just to help to get over that fear is just reviewing where it is that we're kind of stuck in rituals, and just even simple rituals of our own life, how we go through the day, the things we feel like we have to need, and just seeing the trap in that, seeing the restriction and the constriction that results from holding on to old beliefs and old opinions and old habits, as a sort of a motivation to help let go and open to the Dhamma, the truth.
Okay, another Ajahn had suggested that the sound of silence, or nada, that Luang Por Pasanno refers to as tinnitus. I suffer from it. How could I work with changing my perception of it to a positive? Well, I mean, I think one of the I think what Luang Por Pasanno, whether it is or not, I mean, it's sort of like working with conditions and saying that that sense of, because sometimes we take a particular condition that we is a part of our say, of our physical or mental landscape, and it becomes a source of frustration, or a source of of irritation, or a source of kind of, one is disconcerted by it, and so that being able to be, it's like changing the perception in terms of, okay, well, it's like this. This is what the feeling is, and it might even be uncomfortable. Like tinnitus is not a comfortable condition, but it is what we're experiencing. So then, being able to start to separate the experience and the resistance to the experience, in the same way that when we experience, say, pain, and then the resistance to the pain, which is sort of the Buddha's description of the second arrow, so that the first arrow of a painful feeling or uncomfortable feeling is inevitable. We're going to have painful feeling, pleasant feeling, neutral feeling, all these different types of feeling. But the adding of our resistance and fear or whatever to it is adding another arrow. That's the second arrow. That is that is optional. So that being able to turn our attention in a way of okay, because we don't have to sort of try to how do you say, whitewash it and say, oh, it's all good. But what one can do is, okay, it is what it is, and I can hold it with compassion. I can hold it with certain discernment and reflection, wisdom. I can hold it with equanimity. So it is just recognizing that, okay, I don't need to buy into that second arrow. I don't even have to pick up the second arrow. So that's a way of reflecting on it. Yeah.
Just keep an eye on the time.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, okay.
We're 15 minutes over our usual
We're 15
time.
minutes over our usual time. We got to go on arms around still.
Yeah,
okay, let's see. I wonder if you have any thoughts on right view and skillful relationship to the devas. Well, I mean, that's it's just our world is inhabited by many beings, and all beings want to be happy, and nobody wants to suffer, and when we wish everyone well, well, you can include the devas as well.
And based on, you were talking about karma and its results, and the
Yeah.
devas, are living a beautiful life due to their past good action, their past skillful action, virtue and delight. So
That are delighting, and may they be well and happy. Not be separated from the good fortune they have attained.
Right.
Say,
we can experience that in our own life too. We can be devas on earth.
Yeah, well, devas are the actual word is like bright beings, radiant beings.
You can see a number of them in the human realm if you look for them too.
Yes, yes, yeah. Okay. what is the relationship between restlessness and remorse? Can you speak about why they are conjoined as a hindrance? Well, I think they're just the, I think they're that sense of remorse. Well, worry is maybe like restless. Sometimes it's translated restlessness of worry, so that the that remorse, did I do it? Should I have done it? Didn't I do it? Did I do it right? Did I do it? And so, oh dear, I didn't do it right now. And so they're going on and on. This is that kind of remorse. So it keeps the mind restless, being able to delight in one's goodness. And I think that's why that sense of right view is so supportive and helpful, because you can put attention, because oftentimes we're just trying to stop the mind, and it's more helpful to be engaged in, say, like doing things that actually settle the mind. Okay, that's one. Okay, we'll certainly miss you in the morning and Tuesday evening reflections. Thank you so much. Yes, I mean, it was delightful. This is the last hurrah today, but it's been delightful to be here.
You answered that. You answered that other question.
Yes.
What's it been like?
It's been delightful. It's been great. Yeah.
Okay.
That looks like we've covered all the. Yes.
Sadhu to everyone.
Okay, sadhu to everyone, and yes, there will be another month or so. Then the
after December 1st sometime.
Yeah, after December 1st sometime, then there will be other monks coming to stay here, be here through the winter. What they end up deciding to do is up to them.
Stay tuned to the website.
Stay tuned. Yep. Okay. Take care, everyone. Best wishes to all. Okay. Okay. I have to wait for people to find us again.
We're on.
Yeah, there's quite a few people in this chat already. So there.
Sorry for the delay, folks. We're just waiting for people who had already signed on to find us again. She's got 5 people on now.
Okay, are people finding us again after
we're up to 8?
We deked everybody out. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, here we are. Friday morning, and we're running a bit late, and got into a bit of a scramble, and such is life. So begin with a bit of a reflection. and and then open it up for Q&A. So something that's been coming up in my mind is the kind of well, just reflecting on the what's called the Ovada Patimokkha, which is a kind of like a summary or a brief teaching that the Buddha gave early on in his dispensation on the Magha Puja day to a group of arahants, and it's a nice summary, and it's been used in the Buddhist world to point to the kind of the essence or the summary of the teachings, and just just not to engage or to refrain from all things that are evil. The word is quite strong, papa, say as opposed to akusala. To refrain from that which is evil, to do that which is wholly good, kusala sukha sampada, and then the last to purify the heart. And these are the teachings of all the Buddhas, sort of that in the sense of any awakened being from time immemorial into the indeterminate future. That is the essence of those awakened ones' teachings of that too. And I think that sense of recognizing that we're already committed to the wholesome action, skillful action, that sense of really so that doing what's good, refraining from what's evil, and then the purification of the mind is it also covers. I mean, of course, it covers meditation and whatnot, development of the mind. But it's also being able to, because the purification is really about stepping back from our all of the action, striving, pushing, pulling, which is necessary. We do need to restrain ourselves sometimes. We do need to encourage ourselves to do what's kind, what's generous, what's right. And but then because sometimes when we think of purification of the mind, we're trying to achieve some sort of purification through our actions, trying to make it pure. And the sense of being able to step back or to rest in awareness, in knowing, in trusting in awareness is a purification. In that sense, that's where our freedom really lies. So that to be able to again, this trusting in awareness, which oftentimes we might not have. We think we got to be doing something. I need to do something. Good grief, I'm not. I just can't sit here and do nothing, and somehow but that usually comes from not trusting in the power of knowing clearly, trusting in awareness, trusting in the ability of the mind to find its balance, so that those work together, in that sense of because we're already committed to that, that refraining from what's unskillful. We're committed to the practice and training of what is truly good, but to be reflecting on, where does that sense of purity, for lack of a better word off the top of my head, but the sense of release, maybe, and the release comes in awareness, and that being able to trust in that, to gain that sense of confidence, that by just being present, and fully present, which takes its own kind of effort, but it's not the effort of doing, which is so often based in a sense of self, of me. And of course, there's a really wholesome sense of self, which helps us to refrain from the unskillful, from the evil. That there's a wholesome sense of self that helps us to commit to what is truly good. But there's also that program can keep running when it's actually time to relinquish or to release or to let go. And it's not as if there's a clear line or a clear boundary or a black and white one. This is where that sense of experience and trust starts to grow because of our experience, because of our commitment to the training. But I think it's really helpful to put that into the mind as a reflection of where how do I trust in this awareness? How do I trust in this knowing, and not go in there and try to fix it or solidify it or get worried. Did I get my knowing button? Was that enough knowing? And it gets the layers of complication that we add to it, and recognize that the purification of the mind really comes through this releasing, relinquishing, settling, trusting in the knowing. Those are just some thoughts that coming up, and that sense, because I really see mindfulness as part of the cultivation of the good, and our practices of settling the mind are really what's truly good. But then that purification of the mind is all about letting go. But that letting go grounded in awareness, letting go grounded in a sense of well-being that comes from refraining from the unskillful, committing to the good. So if anybody has any questions, we'll try to address that. Looks like everybody's found us again. Or maybe nobody's got any questions yet, but maybe Ajahn Karunadhammo has some thoughts about what I've just talked about.
Not so many. Oh, there's a question saved by the bell.
Okay. Well, I won't save you by the bell. I'll address the question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you would. Oh no, I didn't actually. I was going to say.
You were going to say.
I was going to ask you actually, kind of just a clarification question of, in terms of when to engage in a more active kind of right effort with, active bringing up of wholesome states versus dropping back into, a more receptive awareness, kind of the quality that you're talking about, like how to balance those two actions out.
Yeah, and I think that's it's a really good question, because that's part of that balance that we need to be attending to, because if the deferred option is always kind of a passive knowing, nothing much gets done, and there is a bit of I think kind of wishy-washy or amorphous kind of nothing that ends up taking place.
Choiceless awareness.
Choiceless awareness means you don't actually choose anything.
Right. You used to often have a phrase that I always appreciated about dwelling in, what was it? Nebulous nothingness. Which isn't so fruitful.
That's not so fruitful. It's there needs to be choice. There needs to be effort. And so but sort of recognizing how that affects the well-being. I think it's around the sense of well-being and clarity of the mind. So that commitment to putting effort into skillful action and skillful actions of mind buoy up the mind, buoy up the heart, and allow it to be bright and energetic and clear. And then when it has that clarity and sense of buoyancy and agility, then it can, one can drop back into that knowing, place of knowing, because then you're starting to reflect. It starts to become a mirror for what the mind is trying to do, or what the self is trying to impose, or what the world is impinging, and then that mirror is then we can start to see more clearly. Yeah. Okay, question. I have an almost impossible time keeping the first precept when it comes to mosquitoes. Well, one is good to sort of say almost impossible, because you recognize there is a choice, and then I think one of the things is recognizing that all living beings actually, all they're doing is they're just trying to eat, and in the same way that we try to eat. So there's not a whole lot of difference, and we starting to recognize that sameness, because of that's the sense of living beings are breathing beings, and here we are breathing, and then we rely on sustenance, and then that sustenance is of course, well, it ends up being our blood, but it's you can protect yourself, you can put on mosquito repellent. You can, and certainly it's like sometimes like in one's home, you've got the windows closed, everything's nice and quiet, you're just wanting to lay down to sleep, and then there's me. So, I know my dad, my father, he could not. I mean, he'd stalk the house getting that last mosquito. It was not beautiful. But that, and same, I mean, I look on, like on the desk that we have here, doing the live stream, just across the way. Hand it to me.
Yeah.
There's a handy dandy mosquito, fly, insect catcher sort of thing. Whoop. You get it on the wall, put it in there, close it, take it outside, and let it go. And it's happy, and you're happy. So it's just working around it and setting up some kind of mindfulness that is just aware of that reactivity and reactions. Okay. And then, how to deal with loneliness when trying to live a semi-monastic life. I heard something.
Yeah.
I think one of the things is, in terms of loneliness, it's not so much about say a semi-monastic life and being alone, or being alone more, or seeking solitude. Because oftentimes the sense of loneliness follows us, whether we're by ourselves or whether we are with others, whether we're in a group of people, or whether we're in society. I think some of probably the loneliest people live in big cities, and much of it is seeking connection with good spiritual, having good spiritual friendships, and it might be fairly few, but having a feeling of connection with others, whether they are friends or relatives or partners or whatever, but that attending to that kind of connection. And then in terms of loneliness, like paying attention to the sense of kind of contentment within oneself. Because I think that's a good, one is mindfulness and learning how to be present with oneself, but also learning contentment within oneself. And contentment isn't just content with the material things around one; it's contentment with oneself. So that is a great source of allaying of loneliness. Any thoughts?
Just kind of a fun way to reflect, really. Even when we're alone, there's so many beings lurking in our minds.
This is true.
So many voices that are, we think as just me, but kind of reflecting on all the different thoughts and voices. And I think different teachers, refer to them as the committee members in our mind, and realizing that some of them are good friends and some of them are, kind of thwarting our being, and those ones that are saying, "Oh, I'm lonely," or I feel like I need more support. That's another voice of another kind of temporary being in there, and just learning to make friends in a sense with all of the voices, all of the different little personalities that we have, and actually turning them into friends. So that I find, say, when I'm in periods of solitude, that actually I'd like to feel a little bit more lonely because of all the voices that I'm carrying around that are starting to come up. But you can't just get rid of them, but making friends with them, and then you're in good company. You've got all these nice little personalities with different aspects, and you're training them to be, friends instead of enemies. Then you're just carrying all of your friends around with you.
Okay. Hi, Ajahn. I do have a question. I noticed that during the day, it's relatively easy for me to rest in awareness, but the self really reforms when I'm dreaming. So then I wake up in this contracted state. Any suggestions? Well, I think that follows on with Ajahn Karunadhammo's, that making friends with the different kind of personalities in our in our consciousness, in our being, and have that and recognize that there are. It is a big committee, and getting to know them, getting to be comfortable with them, getting to becoming friends with them, and of course that what also comes to mind is the benefits. There's a sutta where the Buddha gives 11 benefits of loving kindness, and there's one is that one of the benefits is one sleeps happily, and the other benefit is one wakes up happily. So that taking the time to say before sleeping, setting an intention that one is establishing this quality of loving kindness, and of course always that directing of loving kindness is directed towards oneself. That's your foundational directing of loving kindness, and being able to make that into a before one goes to bed, before one goes to sleep, taking the time to do that. Because often, I think, what is our normal pattern of before going to sleep? I mean, it's, what kind of distraction is there? What kind of worry is there? Do we just sort of collapse in a heap at the end of the day when we can't sort of stay up any longer? How much coffee do we drink before going to bed? Any number of things, but to be considering taking the time to just as an exercise to lifting up that recollection of loving kindness. And it can be in a chant, it can be in a recitation, it can be in and just an internal reflection. So, but it is really quite beneficial, just making that into a habit pattern. Okay. It's like
Phil started to ask the same question and then realized that further down the line.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like Phil had a similar. Yeah, I find, well, I'll read it myself. I find first waking up in the morning interesting because I have been off in some other mental state. Do you have, I pushed send too soon. Didn't notice to ask a question I was working on. Yes, well, I think that's a good, that's oftentimes the case that which is why these question and answer sessions are useful, because one person's question is oftentimes not just one person. It's many people are either reflecting or considering, or even on hearing the question and the answer, and say, oh right, that's something that's useful for me too. So that's benefit. Okay, so cool. Like the nebulous nothingness. Okay, great. That's great. Okay, right. Okay, that's we appreciated our little insect catcher. Okay, yeah, I sometimes have to rather forcefully appoint a different committee chairperson when the worries have taken charge. I mean, I think it's really helpful to recognize, yeah, I mean, some chairpersons are just not as trustworthy as others, and you know, just as in any other sort of group of beings. I mean, there's sometimes the ones who really want to be in charge are not the best ones to give all the power to.
You have to turn to them and politely say thank you for sharing. Next.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, just being able to recognize, okay, this is not the time for this particular being, this worry being to be in charge, and or say, you know, say anger being or desire being. they're all vying for top dog positions. Okay, is it recommended for a layperson to stay alone by themselves if they were not ready for fully monastic life and gone through past trauma? It's hard at times to be friends with lurking voices. Well, I think one of the things is also recognizing that monastic life is not a solitary life. And in fact, it is painfully communal. You know, it's it is not comfortable, because I mean, one of the things in lay life, you have the opportunity to choose who you associate with, are friends with. When you join a monastic sangha, you do not have the choice, and you definitely yeah. I mean, I can certainly say, and I'm sure it's the same with everybody else, is that yeah, these wouldn't have been my first choice for who I would have hung out with, but there's a very different basis, in the sense of the basis is a commitment to virtue, a commitment to training, a commitment to the teaching. So it's more like, I think it's important to try to establish some kind of connections with others that have a similar commitment, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll even like them, but you can appreciate them, you can trust them, and that's really important, and that allows us to grow in terms of accepting different voices. And in the same way that then we start to be more able to accept and be friends with the different kind of voices, personalities, beings within our own sense of ourselves. And that allows us to really grow.
Yeah, just kind of following on that and expanding on that, whether you're with people or with you're not people, that kind of, we learn from all of the voices, and really that, being monastic. I'm not sure the derivation of the word monastic, but it does come from mono, I guess, which means like kind of alone, which is kind of really probably not a very good representation of monastic life, and
certainly not in the Buddhist sense.
In the Buddhist sense, right?
I think it was in a Christian sense.
In the Christian sense, right? Yeah. But bhikkhu is, I'm not sure how.
Bhikkhu literally means one who begs.
Begs, sorry. So
yeah,
you can't do that alone.
yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of an aside, but whether you're with other people or whether you're just with the voices in your head, the response is the same. It's a learning tool to learn how to be with those unpleasant things, whether they're real people, that you're living with and training with, or whether, it's the people inside your head. You have to, the tools are the same, of how to listen patiently and, start to gradually learn to, how to be with that which is unpleasant. That's the definition of patience, in a sense, is that kind of peaceful coexistence with what's unpleasant. And it's not easy, and it's a long time practice, whether it's in a community with beings or other beings or inside yourself. And that's actually part of the subtle aspects of learning, that none of these things are me or mine. The people out, the voices inside your head are no more who you are or something that you possess than the beings who are outside of you. And the skills are the same. How to listen, how to be patient, and to learn to discern what's worth believing in and what's worth not believing in, and how to steer the attention to that which develops the wholesome qualities. And it's particularly if there's past trauma, then it's going to be a long process.
Yeah, and that sense of coming back to patience, which can seem so kind of trite or dismissive, but it's really not. It's that patience, when it's relied on and developed as a, as a barmi and as a practice, and how certainly the Buddha and Ajahn place so much importance on. It is transformative, and it doesn't take. It isn't sort of an act of will to just, okay, I'm going to be patient now. It's that ongoing reflection, ongoing directing of attention, an ongoing stitching it together with loving kindness and with contentment and with discernment and reflection and relinquishment. It's a quality that slowly gains ground in the heart, and that helps to transform so many of the mental states, or to kind of at least take the reactivity out of them, not to be so intimidated by them, and that so that when we say, oh, take patience or cultivate patience, or it's not a small thing, and in English it's hard to get the emotional tone of it, just because of the connotations that we have with the language, but the from a Buddhist sense and a Buddhist practice sense, this is a really important and very critical factor in the mind rising above its reactions or its habits or its conditioning, and has this, it really has a transformative quality. Yeah. And it takes time. I used to just bug the heck out of all of us living with Ajahn Chah. We go to him with our problems and our difficulties, and he said, you have to learn how to be patient. And it just drive you nuts hearing that over and over again. but it's also, I think one of the things that was important was that, coming from a teacher like Ajahn Chah, you knew that you couldn't dismiss it. That what he's saying is, there is some sort of validity there, and so it's sort of learning how to hear that, and then learning how to develop the nuance of working with being patient. And I hate using that word. I just wish there was a
better word.
A better word, yeah.
Yeah. I have to come up with that. Yeah, I just reflect. To me, it's like patience is the kind of like the ultimate space maker.
Yeah. It's like it creates space and creates a sense of ease, or it's not contracting and it's expansive. Yeah.
And going back to, you started with the Theravada Patimokkha. Patience is the supreme incinerator of all afflicted mind states.
Yes, and that's the very first line of the Theravada Patimokkha. Yeah. Okay, what do we got here?
7:45.
We got 7:45 on the clock. Okay, let's take a look and see what.
Debbie couldn't hear what you said, Ajahn Chah said.
Oh, patient.
Kind of answered.
Yeah, and also Tamira saying, yeah, just want to name that it is possible to use these practices in combination with therapy to overcome the effects of past trauma. It's not a hopeless proposition being there. Yeah, and I think it's really important to recognize that there are people who are. This is not the only way to deal with things. I mean, it's a helpful way to deal with things, but to have somebody who is well trained in the field, and there's a lot of knowledge these days in the therapeutic realm,
and someone who can take the time repetitively over different, many different episodes to kind of work with an individual through their particular experience, their particular flavor of the dukkha, in that traumatic situation.
Okay, so I think we are
Call it a wrap.
Okay, just to wish everyone well. Take care, everybody. Good to see everybody joining in.
So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friday morning at the Hermitage. Our morning time together for a few minutes before we all go about our day. Might be nice to just start with a brief period of quiet, just to still the mind a little bit and come together in the common space. So let's just sit for a couple of minutes. So once again, good morning. Welcome to our morning reflections and time for a little bit of dialogue, Dhamma dialogue. I was just doing a little bit of reading last night and came across a reference to an old favorite story that probably most of you are aware of. In one of the suttas, or in several of the suttas, the story of the life of Angulimala, who was in the first part of his life. It's a long story, so I won't go into the details, but it ended up being that he was a serial killer, and was just about to, after I think 999 murders that he committed, he was about to commit his 1000th, which is intended to be the Buddha, as the Buddha was walking in the forest. And the Buddha realized, of course, that this was all going on and was able to interrupt the process through some feats of psychic power to kind of fool Angulimala into basically Angulimala asking the Buddha, what's going on? How are you able to avoid my being my stalking you and killing you? And essentially, it's a story of the conversion of Angulimala and his ability to turn around even after a life of what one could consider, horrible unskillfulness, taking the life of many, many people. So it's a story of redemption, in a sense, how he was able to turn his life around, follow the teachings of the Buddha, and eventually attain arahantship. And it's one of those stories that's very inspiring, I think, to those of us who have regrets about the past. I would suspect that many of us, if not most of us, if maybe not all of us, have some regrets from things that we've done in the past, actions, whether it's bodily actions or actions of speech. Those two particular doors of expression are the ones where we often create a sense of regret over when we remember them. And the fact that the Buddha's teachings say that, no matter what we've done in the past, or what we've said in the past, or even what we've, what our thinking processes tend to go along with, there's always room for recognition and growth and change. This is actually part of the law of karma, in that we may not necessarily be able to completely alter the effects of past karma as we experience it, but we are able to learn how to receive it in a way that's beneficial, useful, and ends up creating new habits that prevent the future actions in body and speech and mind that lead to more unskillful results. So it's a story of, it's a story of hope, I guess, redemption. I always like stories of redemption. I've always liked them, and there's others stories within the suttas that are reminiscent of that as well. One of the ones that's not from the suttas, but something that's more from this past my generation anyway, early in my life, was one that I've mentioned to people at Abhayagiri on several different occasions, because it's such a powerful and good example. And it's a situation that took place while I was growing up, and in my youth, as I was just about to enter high school in North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, the South, And the time that I was entering junior high school and high school was a time when the desegregation of the schools in the South was just about to happen. And of course, you know, people who know their history at all know that it was a fraught time for people who were not interested in giving up old ways. And in the Durham City schools where I was going, it was a particularly powerful time, and they were able to delay it, the desegregation, for quite some time. But as it turns out, the year that I was entering high school, the 10th grade, was the year that it finally came to pass. And there's a story that kind of goes along with that, that I did some reading about. It wasn't that long ago that I really understood what was going on, although I was on the periphery. But as a 14-year-old, 13-year-old, I wasn't really totally tuned in at the time, but more so by reading some accounts of it, that the way that it was handled to try and make it as least contentious as possible and as smooth as possible without violence, was that some very wise members of the community pulled together kind of a series of hearings, if you will, to help the various parties plan out a skillful way to enact the rule that was finally being enforced from the Supreme Court. And it was done over a series of community meetings, if you will, community hall meetings in Durham. And the planners of the whole venue were very bold and very skillful in who they chose to help moderate it. They wanted to make sure that all sides were equally represented to give people a chance to voice their concerns, voice their views, voice their, you know, whatever worries or fears that they had in a setting that would, you know, hopefully be able to iron out some of that before the actual day arrived. And so with some controversy, they chose two moderators, and one of them was a leader in the Black community. Ann Atwater was her name. She was a community organizer, community leader for her community, for the neighborhoods, and helping to make life better for them. And she was quite a strong and very vocal citizen, advocate for the Black community. The other person they chose was at that time, the leader, the head of that particular chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. His name was C.P. Ellis. And after some resistance and objection, he and she finally agreed to do that, even though they were, you know, quite concerned about being with each other on stage and in front of a group of people trying to sort this out. And C.P. Ellis was very reluctant at first, but realized that it was going to happen. And if it was going to happen, he wanted it to happen in the best way possible, because he had school-aged children as well. So they agreed to do that. And it was tense and difficult and not easy, and filled with conflict in the beginning. But over time, as they got to know each other, things started to settle a little bit. And kind of the breaking point, or the turning point, was at the end of one long session, apparently, and this was after having done it for a number of days. The two of them were left alone, sitting together after everyone else had left. And somehow, and I can't remember all the exact details of the story, they got to talking with each other on a much more human level. And kind of the epiphany for Mr. Ellis came that they were essentially in the same boat. They were experiencing the same thing: concerns for their family, concerns for their children, concerns for their future, and came to a common understanding just by this process, that they were really looking at the same issues and had the same values. And it moved him so much to hear her and for her to hear him quite deeply through, real listening and real dialogue, that he just found himself unable any longer to do what he was doing in his role as the chief, I guess they call it the wizard or something like that. I can't remember the exact term of that particular chapter. And he ended up leaving the KKK and becoming a community organizer because he realized that in his own, what would have been considered a lower or lower middle class, blue class white family, because he realized that many of the problems that he was blaming on the Black community, or as a basis for his involvement in the KKK, were based on class distinctions rather than racial distinctions, and that he needed to work for the betterment of his community in the same way that she was working for the benefit of hers. And he became a labor organizer to benefit both Blacks and whites in the mills, particularly, I think, in Durham, the various industries that were essentially needing to be organized in a way through labor organization to help bring up the standard of living and salaries and things like that. So he did a complete turnaround, and the lovely part of the story is that the two of them became fast friends, and up until the day he passed away first, and the story is just very touching, and how she attended his funeral kind of with a little bit of hesitation from the funeral director letting her into the service, and she just kind of muscled her way in. She said, "I'm family, he's my brother." And so it was a very touching story of difficulty and unskillfulness, but with redemption in mind, and the fact that we all have this capacity to realize what's going on in our lives, any mistakes that we've made, and we have the capacity to change that and move on and to let go of the past. And thinking about that too, I reflect on my own experience and my life. Nothing quite so dramatic, but certainly plenty of regrets before I became a monk of how I lived my life, and pretty much broke all the precepts at one time or another, or more times than one. And as a young monk, starting to these memories starting to pop up, and I remember kind of one specifically significant moment when I was in my third vasa at Chithurst Monastery, spending a year away from Abhayagiri. A lot of this was really coming up. It was just time that I kind of opened and recognized some of my past regrets. And it was pretty overwhelming, the memories and the thoughts of things that I wished I hadn't done or said. And it was coming on kind of full force. Mara was having a field day, reminding me of what a horrible person I was. It was, I ended up talking with a monk about it just to kind of get some perspective. Actually, a fairly young monk at that time, but he had recently read a sutta that he thought would be useful for me, and which I did refer to, which was very helpful, in addition to just kind of talking. But it's one that some of you may be familiar with. It's from the Samyutta Nikaya in the chapter on village headmen. I don't remember the number at this point, but it's called the conch trumpeter, or the conch trumpet blower. And it's a discourse that talks about how to deal just with that kind of sense of past regret. And without going into the full sutta, essentially, a student of other religious tradition at the time was talking with the Buddha, and the Buddha was quizzing him on what his teacher taught. And And essentially it was along the lines of, an inevitable comic consequence of unskillful past behavior, so that if you took the life of someone or broke any of the 4 precepts, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, in any way, that for sure you would reap the consequences of that, and quite likely, depending, of course, on the severity, would end up in a bad destination after death, rebirth in the lower realms, and that was just the inevitability of the karmic consequences of unskillful behavior. And the Buddha refuted that direct one-to-one cause and effect relationship, and basically reframed it for this person in the way that, well, for sure, if you have done these things, if you have broken precepts, acted unskillfully in some way, and you also review these with the the mental message to yourself of, I did these things, they were harmful, for sure I'm going to suffer the consequences of this, I'm going to be reborn in a lower realm, it's inevitable, I'm doomed, there's no hope, life is, it's just the way it's going to be. Then for sure, that if you carry that with you, and hold on to that and engage in that kind of thinking, then sure as shooting, that's what's going to happen. You've created the causes and circumstances, you've attended to it in an unwise way, you've reinforced the negative mind states, you've reinforced the whole pattern, and you've kind of set yourself up for experiencing the results in a very unpleasant way. And then he offered an alternative, saying that, on the other hand, the best approach is to recognize the past unskillfulness, to recognize the difficulties we all face as human beings. We do unskillful things, particularly, again, along the lines of those moral precepts. And to look at that and acknowledge that and recognize it with honesty. Say, yep, I did do that. I took life, or I stole, or I lied, or I cheated, or whatever it was. And that was not good. And based on my recognition that that was causing harm to somebody else and harm to myself, I now make the resolution not to do that again. From here on out, I will attempt to avoid those kinds of unskillful actions of body and speech, especially. And then further, to pick up and then to let it go at that point as much as one can. Regrets will still come up, memories will still come up, but we've set the stage for not engaging in them with this additional layer of self-blame, guilt, and there's still regret that can come up, but it's not layered on with this, self-flagellation that we can do. And then further, the Buddha encouraged us to develop the vast and open and boundless states of mind, like loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the 4 Brahma Viharas, as a container for if and when results from past actions do come, we've got a much, much larger space in our minds, a much larger container in our consciousness to be able to receive that. And something that may have been experienced as the results of, of past karma as being a very difficult, unpleasant, horrendous result that we have to bear with in an experience. It may, within the space of the Brahma Viharas, the space of the boundless states of mind, that they will be experienced to a much lesser degree. It will be the same result, or the same action, creating a result that's much less impactful. So we do have a way of transcending these past actions that we feel regret and remorse over. So that's a different take on it than the kind of deterministic take on karma and the inevitability of the worst possible scenario happening. And I found that at that time, I found consideration of that an immense relief. And it kind of, it gave me hope for myself and for my future that, that I could make it and actually make some substantial change in my life. So that was on a minor scale compared to Angulimala or C.P. Ellis. It was sort of my moment of redemption in a sense, and that we have the power to change course at any time and to pick ourselves up and move on. So I think I'll leave it there for this morning's reflection. We have some time for some questions.